Hello, FedPhoenix fam. So, tonight I have for you another prison story. This one is called The Day the Curl Cried. And by curl, I'm referring to a hairstyle. And just to elaborate for those who, just may not know. So, once upon a time, there was a very popular hairstyle called a jerry curl. And around that time, also was very popular is the S curl. These are ethnic hairstyles. The S curl had like gel activator, and the jerry curl had activator and stuff you spritzed on it all the time, so it would like drip by default. Nasty stuff. But it's a very outdated hairstyle, unless you're in the deep South, pretty much. And even then, only people of a certain age really do it anymore. But anyway, so that just for context, I should mention that. So when I was in prison, right, last year, 2022, I went to my caseworker person, who was notoriously not a very pleasant person or helpful person, and I'm sure still isn't. And I said, hey, and this was like in early May, and I said, hey, in a few weeks, I should be eligible to go home early on CARES Act to finish my time on home confinement. This was a thing that was very common during the height of the COVID era, which was this time frame. Because I had a 24-month sentence. So because I qualified for CARES Act early release, that meant that after doing 6 months of my sentence, so the end of May of last year, I should have been transferred through CARES Act to finish my time on home confinement, right? And so with good behavior, a 24-month sentence is a 20-month sentence. So I go to my caseworker and I mention this. Or my caseworker. And she said, well, aren't you here on a drug charge? And I said, yeah, because, it wasn't really relevant. Because having a drug charge, particularly my drug charge, does not exclude a person from being eligible for CARES by policy. So she said, well, I need to ask the warden if she's going to, sign off on your CARES package. Because if not, there's no sense in me putting it together because it won't, make it off the compound. And I said, okay, that's fine. What you also need to know is the warden at the time, who's no longer the warden there, had a personal bias against people with drug charges. Even if it was victimless, non-violent, kind of a crime of association rather than action. It didn't matter. And how she made this bias very apparent is she would blatantly just refuse to process your paperwork for things like CARES Act to get you home early. And when you would ask her about it, she would say, oh, well, people that are involved in drugs are a threat to the community, and my job is to protect the community. Or she would say, you were sentenced to whatever, in my case, 24 months. So, you should be doing 24 months. And any day less than that, you need to just thank the Lord for, because it's a gift from God. Which, no, there are policies in place where just with good behavior, my 24-month sentence is a 20-month sentence. With CARES Act, I should have did 25% of that, my 24 months in prison, which, was 20 months of good behavior, and the other 14 months on home confinement. There's FSA credits, which was passed by Congress, that I was eligible for, that I had earned through working and programming and such. And, but she just would disregard all of this, for her own personal agenda. And there were a lot of people who overserved their sentence at outer sin, or who were chewing their arm off to get transferred elsewhere so that they could go home because they should have been home. But because of this particular warden, her particular bias. So keeping that in mind. So she says, well, I got to check with the warden because you got a drug charge. And if she's not going to sign it, then no sense in me doing it. And I said, okay. So fast forward a few days. I think it was a few days. And she says, oh, well, the warden is not only going to not sign off on your CARES package, but, and when I went to prison, Grand Prairie, Texas is where they do the designation and computation, sentence computation for all federal inmates, right? And they had deemed me eligible to earn and apply FSA credits, to get earn time off through programming and working. So then she tells me, and I had been earning them up to this point. And then she tells me, oh, and by the way, the warden said that also, because of your charges, we're going to have to key you in as ineligible for FSA now. Which, just with good time in FSA, I should have served on a 24-month sentence. I should have served like 11 months in prison and then did my last 2 months at home on home confinement. Because back then, people who went in when I went in, you didn't go to halfway. Most people didn't go to halfway house unless they were homeless. You finished your last little bit. Instead of doing halfway house, you did on home confinement. And I should have did my last 2 months on home confinement, which would have put me going home November of last year and completely maxed out January of this year. And as y'all know, I didn't come home. And I came home maxed out, though, until March of this year. My paperwork shows that just with my FSAs in good time, I should have been home last November with my family, and then 2 months later, completely done with my sentence. But anyway, so she says, oh, and the warden has also said because of your charge that I have to switch your status in the central file as FSA ineligible. So, and this was May of last year. So then, right, a little bit of time goes by. And now, mind you, they can do your, have you sign your release paperwork and do your home visit and all that stuff. Where they ensure that wherever your home is, you can be there and it's, meets their criteria and all that. Up to a year prior to your release. But usually they do it, anywhere between like 3 and 6 months prior to your release. So then, like maybe a week or so later, and I of course was not, I wasn't disrespectful, but I was definitely obviously frustrated, with my previous conversation with her. So then, and I started my admin remedies as well, which of course got me nowhere, but I did them, which is a process of paperwork you do when you have an issue like this that goes through the warden, and then you got to wait, and then it goes through regional, and then you wait, then it goes through DC, and you wait. It's a whole thing. But anyway, so a little over a week or so later, after she tells me, the warden won't sign off on your cares, and she's deemed you FSA ineligible, which I knew would add months to the time I would have to serve in prison. She then has a list of like 5 different people in my unit that she needs to talk to that are one at a time, going to go back to her office. And the first person goes. They come out. Of course, people are very nosy, particularly in a prison camp, where violence is minimal. So people are much more comfortable kind of being out of pocket. But so the first person goes back and comes out, and they're so excited, and they're woo, and I signed my release paperwork, and they're going to go do my home visit, and I'm going home in a few months, and yay, because these are all people that on this list, people who had got their FSA eligibility, their credits had kind of caught up. Now people are getting like their credits every month, pretty much like clockwork. Back then, you would go months without credits, even though you were earning them, and then you would just get a whole cluster of them all at one time. So next person, same thing. They go back and, oh my gosh, my FSA credits hit, and oh, I'm about to go home, and I signed my release paperwork, and I'm going home in 2 weeks, and then the third person goes, and I'm like the 4th or 5th person. I may be the last person, 4th or 5th on this list of 5 people that she needs to speak to individually. And my heart's racing, and my prison bestie is like, girl, you're about to go home. Like, they must have fixed your stuff, to FSA eligible. And, they're going to have to get on it, with doing your home visit and, and you signing your release paperwork and all that, because, with your FSA and stuff, just with FSA, you're going home in a few months. And they say, and then there was speculation amongst my small little group that I associated with. Oh, well, they probably just realized like they better just give you your cares because the warden's been like stiffing so many people on that. And a lot of people have filed like habeas corpuses and stuff to try to go over her head that, maybe the warden just decided it wasn't worth the headache to do this to you. So, and this was towards the end of May. So my turn comes up, right? And I go back in her office, and out on this table, right, is release paperwork. There's my mug shot, my prison intake picture and all my information. There's my home address, where I'm going home to after prison, and all this stuff. And at this point, I mean, I just can't believe what's happening, right? My heart is beating, and I'm so happy, and I start crying. I start crying, and I'm like, happy tears. And I'm like, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry that I got a little sideways with you the other day, and I gave you a little attitude. I really appreciate this, and which really, what am I appreciating? That she did her job, but it was such an overwhelming thing to have this reality of, oh my God, I'm about to go home. And this was, I'm just going to throw out dates, that are in the right ballpark, the right time frame, but they may not be exactly correct. But I was like, and this was like, maybe we'll say May 21st. And so I'm signing on my paperwork, and I'm thanking her, and I'm getting emotional, and oh my God, I can't wait to tell my mother and my children I'm coming home. And she gathers the paperwork after I sign it. And as I'm, praising her, saying, oh, you're so wonderful and thank you so much, she's soaking it all in. Oh, you're welcome. And, I'm just doing my job. Then she gathers up all the paperwork, and she said, did you pay attention to the date on there? And I said, no, I just am so caught up. No, I didn't. What day am I going home? Mine just is like May 21st, 2022, last year. She says, oh, you're going to go home. And again, I'm just throwing out an approximate date because I can't remember the exact dates, but it's very close, if not accurate. She said, oh, you're going home May 27th. I'm going home in less than a week. In less than a week, this is over. Oh my God. I was shaking like a leaf. I was so like just overwhelmed and in shock. And, because you get to the point where you're just like, you almost resign to, I'm going to be here as long as they can legally keep me here. And, as long as they can violate policy and keep me here wrongfully, they're going to keep me here too. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. I had already been there almost 6 months. I may have to do another year instead of going home when I was supposed to. So, so when that changes, just all of a sudden, boom, you're going home. And you woke up that morning thinking you were going to be there another year. It's a shock to your system, especially because you got to understand that in prison, time goes very, very slow. And it's a very depraved environment. And so being told that you're going to be released from that, unexpectedly, is such a wonderful and overwhelming thing. So she says to me, though, she says, so, did you look at the date on the paperwork? I said, no. She said, it's May 27th. And I was, knees were weak. I could have just fell out, I'm like, oh my gosh, less than a week. Right. And I'm just in shock in the best of ways, right? Like a winning a lotto ticket kind of thing. Then she gives me this very smug smile, kind of condescending. And she said, yeah, that's right. May 27th, 2023. So she put me on this list of people to do their release paperwork. Literally, pretty much to the day of a year from when I would be released with just good behavior to go finish my time on home confinement. And all those other people were leaving very soon. They were all leaving because someone had actually did their job and did the right thing by them. And I was thrown into this group. And it occurred to me in that moment, I'm not in this group because anything wonderful is happening for me. I'm in this group because she's toying with me. She's playing with my emotions. She literally has drugged me on this emotional roller coaster on purpose as some weird sadistic, probably punishment for the fact that I got an attitude with her, previously. And when that realization hit me, the tears start rolling again, right? This time they're angry tears. And I'm not a violent person. But when I tell you I went from weak in the knees to having the adrenaline rush of like the strength of the Hulk, like I could have picked up the printer and dropped it on her head. I was so angry. Now I'm shaking because I'm angry. Tears running down my face. Unbelievable. And as she said it, she said, 2023. Her hair, she had that, it almost looked like she used S-Curl, like curl activator gel, and then sprayed it with a crap load of like Jerry juice, of Jerry curl juice, because it had a weird, didn't really bounce, you know what I mean? But it was very wet. And when she said 2023, I literally seen one of the curls drip. Like the curl, her hairstyle actually cried at just how savagely she had just played this weird little psychological game with me for her own gratification. Then when I come out of there, right, I get back onto the unit. People are running up to me. You know, the few people I deal with running up to me. And they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? You about to go home, aren't you? And I told you, all those people filing habeas corpuses against the warden for not giving them their freaking cares. You know, she knows that she's going to go to prison if she don't start giving people their stuff. You got your cares, didn't you? And you know, or, you know, everyone was speculating and so excited for me in the best of ways. You know, the people, again, the few people I deal with. And I said, oh, yeah, I signed my release paperwork. And they were like, for real? When's your date? Like, when are you going home? I said, May 27th. And they were like, oh my God, that's less than a week. Oh, ooh, so exciting. Whoa, 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 whoa. And then I did to them the same thing she did to me. Because I was still just godsmacked by the foolery. And so I said, May 27th. People were like, oh my gosh. Oh, that's so exciting. Hey, are you going to take your boots? Because I really could use some boots, girl. You know. And I gave them a minute to kind of have the emotional high that I had. Then I hit them with the emotional low that I got hit with that I'm sure was much less significant to them than it was to me, right? So I was like, May 27th. The people were like, oh. And I was like, 2023. And they were like, what? Like, can she even have you sign your release paperwork this far ahead? Why did she put you? I was like, oh, yeah. She had me sign my release paperwork. Literally said be 2 days short of a full year that I signed it, because it can't be no more than a year. You have to redo it. She knows that. I know that. They know that. I call that the day the curl cried. And it really drove home the fact that a lot of the people who work in the Bureau of Prisons, as administration, as guards, whatever, they become very desensitized to the fact that the inmates are actual human beings. You know, we are dehumanized to them. We are systematically dehumanized in their training and in their day-to-day interactions and the way that their culture amongst themselves. And this was some weird little sick game she played for her own amusement, and to kind of punch me in the stomach without touching me. Because I got an attitude with her previously, because I was, you know, obviously flustered, to say the least, at the fact that I knew I should have been going home. And at first she says the warden won't sign off on my cares. Okay. Then that pushed me from going home when I should have on cares, May of 2022, to me going home November of 2022, right, to do my last couple months on home confinement, and that would max out in January of 2023. Then after she hit me with that, then the next thing was, oh, and by the way, no FSA eligibility for you either. Can't be earning them credits no more off your time. And the ones you already earned, we're taking back. So now my release date changes to pretty much to May of 2023 without FSA and without cares. So the months are just stacking and stacking and stacking, and I know I shouldn't be serving them. Not according to you know, policies the Congress passed and policies the Bureau of Prisons. And it was almost like she wanted to kind of rub my face in it a little bit. Because I certainly was like, and I asked her when she first hit me with the crazy news, the first time, you know, she's not going to sign your cares. And by the way, your FSA, or no, it was a day or so later, she said, and by the way, pulled me aside and said, by the way, the warden's decided that you're FSA and eligible to apply FSA credits, so we're taking that as well. So it was kind of spaced out. It was a slow burn, horrible situation. And I absolutely got an attitude. I absolutely said, you do understand that legally I qualify for CARES. You do understand that legally, like, I'm a poster child for CARES Act, 25% release, for people with the 2-year lessons. I am a poster child for FSA credits. Nonviolent, victimless crime. It was in a crime of association, not actual action. I'm a disabled person. I have multiple chronic illnesses. I have dependents in the free world. I have a stable home to go to. Like, I program, I work. I did not have at that point, and didn't have my whole stay in prison. Not one disciplinary infraction, not even a minor one. I am a poster child for these programs. But because of the warden's personal, issues, the warden at the time, I wasn't going to get to the benefit of those programs. And this woman seemed to really bask and almost playing God, you know what I mean? And bask in being a puppet for the warden and enforcing the warden's crap upon people. It was weird, like a weird henchman or something. I don't know. And this was someone who frequently, by the way, loved to preach about how everyone needs to just open their Bible and this and that. Very much, and several of the staff there actually, very much push their personal Christian values. And they come there and they treat the people, the inmates, subhuman while doing such, which make sense. But that was the day that the girl cried. And it was definitely a very intense, very upsetting situation. So that's one of my prison stories. So if you like the video, please subscribe if you've not already. If you enjoy any part of my content, or you just like keeping up with me, or keeping up with things. If you do subscribe and it asks you about notifications, if you hit all, you'll see all new content as it drops. If you hit select, or like customized, then the YouTube algorithm will determine what it thinks you want to see. So you'll see things based upon that. In the description of the video will be my YouTube and Cash App if you'd like to donate to the channel. There will also be a link to my merch line if you would like to support being part of the FedPhoenix family. And as y'all know, I'm working on my first book. Hoping to get that dropped by the end of next summer. And definitely one of the things that carried me through things like the day the girl cried was reminding myself that no matter how fat of a slice it is just a slice of my life I'm just passing through. And I will get through it because I have to, because there are people on the other side of this that need me to and deserve for me to, and I owe that to them. But I'm not going to pretend that any part of this was easy, particularly psychologically and emotionally, because it wasn't. It was pretty brutal a lot of the time. But whatever you're going through in life, I want to remind you that it is just a slice of your life, and you will get through it because you have to. So, and also my email will be in the description if any of you need to contact me for any reason. So with that, good day, God bless, and I will talk to y'all later.